not part of his plans. Hi, good evening. Not if you're Raheem Sterling, I'd suggest. Well, Ben Chilwell is another who's been told he can leave Chelsea, while the long saga involving Conor Gallagher and Joao Felix is finally over. Is Manchester City's treble-winning captain on his way back to the club? And Ivan Toney was left out of the Brentford squad on Sunday, but he was back training today. We'll discuss his future. Let's start with Chelsea, though. Enzo Maresca says he's been nothing but honest when telling Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell they don't have a future at the club. Well, Sterling has been stripped of his number 7 shirt, with Chelsea willing to listen to offers.
I spoke with Raheem 1v1 the day before City, and I explained him exactly the situation.
On Monday, because he wanted the clarity after the game.
I don't see Raheem after the game. He's training apart, as I said, but in case I will sit with Raheem, I will tell him exactly the same things that I already told him. I don't have anything new to tell him, because I was quite clear.
So why does Raheem not fit into your plans? What is it about him?
It's not because he's... I'm not saying that Raheem is no good player, but I prefer different kind of wingers, and this is the reason why.
I've read the words describing the way you've dealt with Raheem and Ben, and potentially other players as well, as brutal. Do you see yourself as brutal?
Brutal? I don't think so. I just try to be honest. I said, and I can repeat again in case it's not clear. I spoke with Raheem before City game. I said that he's going to struggle to get minutes with us, and this is the reason why he was out of the squad. And with Chile, I said that it's a lovely guy, but he's going to struggle because his position with us is going to struggle. So if you define this brutal, it's up to you to decide. For me, it's not brutal. It's just honest.
Well, our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is here. So, Maresca, is he honest or is he brutal?
Well, look, I'm not going to accuse the Chelsea head coach of being dishonest. I think he's been honest with Raheem Sterling. He's told him face to face that he's not in his plans going forward. So that is the right way to do things. The only thing that would concern me from a player's perspective is I think during the summer, Raheem Sterling must have been receiving mixed messages, because at the end of last season, his representatives had talks with Chelsea and there was no indication that he was not wanted at the club. He looked at his future and he saw Chelsea. Now, during pre-season, he was involved, I think, in every pre-season game. Before the first game of the season against Manchester City, he took part in all the sort of media activities. He thought going forward he was going to have a senior leadership role at the club. And then on Friday, after training, Enzo Maresca took him to one side and had this honest conversation, which some people have described as brutal. So I think now Raheem Sterling knows where he stands. But of course, from his perspective, the timing is not that great, because he was told that he was not wanted just 2 weeks before the window closes.
Kaveh, on Sunday in the programme, he's got the number 7 shirt. On Wednesday, he has no shirt. Is that not brutal?
It's the football business. That's the way football works. I know it looks really, really brutal, but he's not the first player who's lost his shirt number, and he was told on Friday that he didn't have a future at the club. I totally understand and respect the point you're making. You know, I would find it very difficult if what has happened to Raheem Sterling had happened to me out in the public and everyone was talking about it and discussing it on social media. But this is the kind of world that football players live in. You know, only 11 players get to start games. It is a brutal business, the football industry, and this is not the first time that this has happened. Yes, if you looked at the match programme on Sunday, Raheem Sterling was on the back as number 7. Pedro Neto was on the back as number 19. Some Chelsea fans have gone out there and bought number 19 Pedro Neto shirts. Now, I anticipate that Chelsea are going to say, if you've bought one of those shirts, bring it back to the club shop, we'll exchange it for a number 7 Neto shirt. But that's just the way football works, I'm afraid.
Only 2 seasons ago, Chelsea bought him from Manchester City for 50 million quid. What on earth has happened?
Well, you know, things change. Things change in football. He's been at Chelsea for 2 seasons. He's on a very, very lucrative contract. I think Chelsea now have a new policy where they want their players to have relatively low base wages. So I think that could be a factor as well. But according to Enzo Maresca, this is just purely a footballing decision. And at the end of the day, Enzo Maresca can only have 25 players in his Premier League squad. And he's decided that for him, Raheem Sterling is not going to be one of those 25 players. Now, I think it's not all doom and gloom for Raheem Sterling because he's still a very, very good player. He's somebody who is a very experienced England international. So I think over the next few days, he will have lots of offers. I believe he would rather stay in the Premier League. That's where he sees his future. His family are settled here. He wants to regain his England place. So I don't think he's going to be interested, for instance, in moving to Saudi Arabia. So I think the picture at the moment looks uncertain, but I would not be surprised at all if in the next few days, maybe next week, we were not standing here and talking about Raheem Sterling getting a big move to another Premier League club.
I'm glad at the beginning of that you mentioned the bloated nature of the Chelsea squad, because much has been made of the number of players in that squad. Maresca, though, says that's not an issue.
It's almost impossible to keep all of them happy. The only thing I can say is the same thing I said your colleague, that I try always to be honest with all of them. In this moment, probably the noise is more outside because I'm working with 21, 22 players in the last, since we are back from USA. I'm not working with 42 or 43 players, but I already said many times, but I can see that you like to say that we have 42, 43 players, but more than 15 players, they are training apart. They are not with the team. As I said again, I repeat again, I'm not working with 42 players. That is something that from outside, I'm working in this moment with 21 players. Today's session is with 20 players. Yesterday's session was with 21. So it's, the other 15 or 20, they're training apart. And in the USA, we had 26 or 27 players. So it's not if they are Chelsea player, 42, 43, yes, for sure. But they are not working with me every day. I don't see them. So it's not a mess like looks from outside. Absolutely not.
Right, Carly. So it's not a mess. He's a load of players not needed. But how does he deal with that situation? How does the club deal with 14, 15, 16 players not involved?
I think if you look at it from Enzo Maresca's point of view, what he's got is he's got a pool of around 40 first-team players. Now, he's not working with 40 players. He is working with around 20 players, and in 2 weeks' time, Chelsea will submit their Premier League squad, and like every other team, it will have 25 players in it. So this season, Chelsea will have 25 players in their squad in the Premier League. And I think the time to judge Chelsea is not now, it's time when the window is closed. When the window is closed, look at their squad and say, is it strong? Should they have this player? Should they have that player? Enzo Maresca, as the head coach, works with the players he wants, between 20 and 25 players. The other problems, not the other problems, the other players, that is something that the sporting directors and the recruitment department at Chelsea are working on. Those players are going to be told, you are not going to be in the Premier League squad, so now is the time for you to find another club. And they've already been told that. What's happening? Why are they not moving now? Well, guess what? This is the transfer window. Clubs are playing poker with each other. Clubs who want some of those players know that probably they'll be able to get a better deal when we get closer to the deadline.
Okay.
So wait until the deadline, because once we have the deadline, then you will be able to see and judge what the Chelsea squad looks like. And
Okay.
it won't be 42 players.
No, it won't be, but it will contain Joao Felix. Explain to me why Chelsea has spent £42 million on a player who did not pull up any trees when he was on loan with them.
Well, look, Joao Felix, I still think is a very, very good player. OK, his move to Atletico Madrid didn't work out. Atletico paid something like £113 million for him. He has had problems at Atletico. His relationship with Diego Simeone hasn't been great. Diego Simeone wanted him out. He'd been on loan at Chelsea. He was on loan at Barcelona last season as well. He still is an exceptional player who has a lot to prove. And from what I'm hearing, I haven't had this confirmed, but I think he's taken a wage cut to move to Stamford Bridge. And he fits in with the new owner's new wage policy as well. So I think it makes sense from that perspective as well. But again, judge him on what he does this season. Yes, I know the point you're making. He hasn't been living up to his potential in the past couple of seasons, but he still is an exceptional player. And I think in the right environment, he will show what he can do. And I think his wages also make sense for Chelsea at the moment.
OK, so he's in. Conor Gallagher is out. How do you feel about the way he's been treated?
I'm not a Chelsea fan. I think a lot of Chelsea fans are disappointed, upset about the way he's been treated. You know, he was somebody who I think captained Chelsea more than 20 times last season. He was a fan's favourite. But again, if you're building a squad and in your squad you have players like Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Lavia, players that you've signed for big, big money, you have to be honest with a player like Conor Gallagher and say, look, you're not going to get that many minutes if you stay. And look at it, instead of looking at it, you know, from a sort of saying everything is doom and gloom for him. Come on, let's get real. Conor Gallagher is moving to one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's moving to La Liga. How many players would want to go and play for Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, in La Liga, and work with Diego Simeone? So, you know, all these people who are saying, you know, Chelsea don't know what they're doing, the club's always in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Surely you should be saying, Conor Gallagher, brilliant, well done. You're better off out of there, and you've got this fantastic move to Atletico Madrid.
Right, we know Chelsea wanted a striker. They wanted Omarodion, didn't get him. Got Felix. The number 9 shirt's still up for grabs, so they're going to have to go again, surely. Is that the case?
Well, look, I know Chelsea are looking for another striker, and we've been talking a lot. I know people are really interested in squad numbers, who's wearing what number. We know that Joao Felix has got the number 14 shirt, which belonged to Trevor Chalobah. Chalobah has been told in face-to-face talks that he would not be getting many minutes next season, so he'll be leaving. So Felix has got 14. We also know that Pedro Neto got number 7. This was all while the number 9 was available. So why didn't either of them get that number 9 shirt? I think it's because Chelsea is still out there looking for a number 9. Guess what? Victor Osimhen at Napoli wears a number 9. We know Chelsea are interested in signing him. So could they be keeping that shirt free for Victor Osimhen? I'm not sure that will happen because of the size of the transfer fee and his wages. But Chelsea are definitely there to do a deal for Victor Osimhen if Napoli are willing to compromise.
Kaveh Solokol, our chief reporter, right across it. Thank you, Kaveh. Right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk the champions. Not done much business, but they could be getting busy, and getting busy with a Celtic player. More next. See you in a moment.
He knew that City were back in for him. I think there was only one choice that he was going to make. Barcelona actually sanctioned his departure, to the surprise of many. But if you look at their financial situation, they wanted to reduce the wage bill, number one. But also, they've always had this issue about registering some of the players that they always sign. Dani Olmo is one of their big signings of the summer, and they haven't been able to register him yet. So this sale, well, it's not going to be a sale because it's effectively going to be a free transfer to Manchester City, but it will help them be able to register Dani Olmo into that Barcelona squad. Discussions are ongoing with this deal. It's not fully done yet, but we expect it to happen. If you go back to his first spell at City, 7 seasons at Manchester City, he won 5 Premier League titles, the Champions League, 2 FA Cups and 4 League Cups, and he retired from international football from Germany earlier on this week, which will make him even more fresh when he plays for City this season.
Yeah, indeed. Tim, so if City do get the Gundogan deal over the line, do they still need to replace Julian Alvarez?
I think they've yet to make a decision on that. All options are open. Kyogo at Celtic is one player that they have looked at, so that is one option for them. But Pep Guardiola, I think he's quite relaxed about this situation. If the right player becomes available at the right time, then City may make a move. He told us earlier in this transfer window that if they sold a first-team player, they may bring one in. So the door is open, but as I say, City are very, very calm about this situation. They're looking at different options, and if the right option fits for them, then they might bring someone in. Obviously, the injury to Oscar Bob has made it perhaps more of a necessity than it might have been, but I still think that City, if they don't bring in another striker, they'll be quite content, but if the right player becomes available, then they'll make their move.
And of course, Gundogan can play in the Alvarez role, and he can also play in the Rodri role, so he's a fantastic signing. All right, let's talk Manchester United, Dharmesh. Ugarte, you keep telling me about him, but nothing's moved, or has it?
Yeah, it is moving now because talks are advancing between Manchester United and Paris Saint-Germain over the signing of Manuel Ugarte, the midfielder, the Uruguay international midfielder. Willingness now from all parties to get this deal done with, 9 days of this transfer window to go. One source has told me that there's a cautious optimism. I know I use that phrase quite a bit, but that's what's been told to me today, that this deal will get done before the deadline. Now, a permanent deal is what is preferred for PSG and is what Manchester United want to do as well. But a loan with an obligation, that has been mooted as well. I just think that United want to create budget and they want to create squad space, which has been the theme throughout this transfer window, in particular in the final 2 weeks. But they have started to do that. And there are 2 imminent departures. One has happened today. Facundo Pellistri has moved from Manchester United to Panathinaikos on a permanent deal this time. He's had 3 loan spells since he arrived at United in 2019. But this one has happened to Panathinaikos. It's a €6 million initial payment plus €2 million in performance-related add-ons. And in keeping with how United are doing their business, particularly with sales, they've inserted a significant sell-on. And we think it's worth around 45% if he was to move on from Panathinaikos in the future. And they've got a buyback option for 3 years as well. Another one that is in motion is Hannibal Mejbri's move to Burnley. Talks are continuing over a loan with an obligation. So squad space is being created. Wages are being freed up. Transfer fees, although not big, every little bit helps. That will help Manchester United try and finalise this deal that they've been chasing the whole summer.
Tim, why do they want him so much?
Well, we're going to show you some stats that illustrate why they want him so much, because he's a very combative midfielder and he fits the profile of what Manchester United want. So in terms of tackles per 90 minutes, he streaks ahead of others, the likes of Polinia, who's considered one of the very best in that position, way ahead, and also possession won in the final third of the field.
Explain that to me. Explain that to me, that graphic.
Well, he's ahead in terms of that's the profile of the players that Manchester United are looking at.
Okay.
And up against the other players in those positions, he comes out very favourably, and that's the reason that Manchester United wants him.
OK, fair enough. All right. So that's Ugarte. We'll wait and see what happens there. Dharmesh, I want to talk Fulham. They've made some signings, but I gather there's more in the pipeline. I beg your pardon? Ivan Toney. Let's talk Ivan Toney. Tim, Ivan Toney. Why has no one signed Ivan Toney?
This is an interesting one because we talked about him in the last transfer window as well, when everybody was looking for a striker. But I think the dynamics have changed a little bit here because a lot of the top clubs who were looking for a striker in the last transfer window, some of them have moved on. Dominic Solanke, for example, has been signed by Tottenham Hotspur. We know that the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal have looked at Ivan Toney, but there is a feeling now that they're looking at different options in terms of younger strikers. For example, Chelsea tried to sign Omarodian, much younger striker, different type of striker. He's going to be 29 this season, Ivan Toney. he's got 1 year left on his contract. So if he was to see out that contract, he would be a much better option for clubs in a year's time. So those are, I think, some of the reasons why he's not moved as yet, but still a very attractive proposition, and things can change very quickly in a transfer window. So as things stand, it's going to be difficult, I think, for him to make a move to one of the very top clubs in the Premier League, hence the reason a move to Saudi looks more likely. OK, very quickly, Dharmesh, we're running out of time here. Just a quick one on Fulham. Tell us about imminent signings.
Yeah, Joachim Andersen, this man here, has been having a medical with Fulham after a full agreement was reached with Crystal Palace. We think that fee's around £30 million. Also, Sander Berge is finalising his move from Burnley to Fulham. He's been having a medical, and that fee is £20 million initial payment plus £5 million performance-related add-ons. Excellent. So much to talk about in the transfer window. Boys are back at 7, and we've got a special guest for you as well. Right, I'm back after the break, and we're going to talk Test match cricket. England rolled the West
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Soccer News to get latest updates on soccer. Thank you. Please subscribe.